Live. Yeah, and we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another episode of Breaking News Talk Show. I'm here today with none other than Brother Mahad. Please tell me I'm saying your name correct.
Yes, you said it perfectly, Ahmed.
And today we're gonna bring up a very important subject that many people have been talking about. And but first, let's start with the new winner on the grid, Oscar Piastri. I mean, personally, I don't see that's the way how we wanted to see him win,
Yeah.
but a win is so what
Uh, uh,
you're a
um,
McLaren fan.
uh, this is not how I envisioned his first win. And I think it was poorly mismanaged by the team. I thought he was fantastic all weekend. Fantastic to get into the lead and manage the first stint. And the race that kind of plagued him last year with the tyre management. So I thought it was kind of poetic that I went through 360. This was going to be the race to win. I said this 2 weeks ago. I said Oscar Piastri is winning this race. I said it a long time ago. I felt it in my gut that he was going to win this race. But I feel like it was such a soulless win. And that was because of the team. And I feel so bad for Oscar that, look, all the celebration and jubilation that you get with a first win wasn't really there. The vibe was off because
Yeah,
usually when someone's a first time winner, it's like iconic. You've seen like Gasly, you've seen
a month
Ocon,
ago,
you even saw
a month
Norris.
ago, Norris, month ago, I was about to say, a month ago, look at the engineers screaming. You can hear the garage screaming in the background. You can hear everyone yelling. You can hear Norris screaming his lungs out. But Oscar gave me Akira Raikkonen vibes, you know. After like, bro, I had no emotions in that one. I wanted to see him celebrate it, but again, a win is a win, and he did exactly what the team asked of him. Lando was a little bit, like he was trying to prove a point,
Yeah.
and then he gave that position back. Uh, but yeah, overall, who would have thought? Like, let's circle back a little bit for few months back.
Yeah.
Who would have thought, like, let's give a year ago, McLaren was in the championship position. Everyone was bringing up Mercedes.
You just cut out there. I can't hear you. Say that again.
Oh,
Sorry.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Say that again.
Okay. So what I was saying is, a lot of people were bringing out that, oh, it's McLaren, sorry, it's Mercedes,
Yeah.
it's Ferrari who's gonna bring the fight, or Ferrari mostly because Ferrari were closer, and oh, probably Mercedes. Nobody was given a shot to McLaren that they would be the one in position to flip the table on Red Bull.
Yeah.
How do you see it in your opinion? Do you think everyone was McLaren was wrong?
Do you know what? I understand the perception of McLaren because look, McLaren's not been up at the front for 12 years. So of course, Ferrari, who have been there constantly, and Mercedes that have been there constantly, are going to be seen as the main protagonists to Red Bull, and they're going to be this every time when it is preseason. You're going to see that they're the ones that are going to be hyped up. I thought it was good to kind of fly under the radar, even though the team didn't really make it under the radar when they released those videos in January saying whatever it takes and launching the car early and saying we've got something. And then kind of a little bit of a downer because they didn't bring the car until Miami. It was kind of delayed. They were kind of using some kind of base model, but it wasn't really the car that they wanted to bring into the season. But I had faith in Andrea Stella. I had faith in Zach Brown. I had faith in the development curve that we saw last year, that they understood these regs. There's people in the background at McLaren that have understood ground effect cars. We've got people that actually won championships with ground effect cars in the 80s that know about the ins and outs of how the mechanical platform kind of interacts with the aerodynamic parts of a ground effect car. So I had faith that they understood what they needed to do, especially that big jump last year. Uh, what I didn't foresee is Red Bull going a bit down blind alleys and kind of standing still, not moving as forward as I thought they would, and that's kind of circled back into whatever we're seeing now. I didn't foresee this. I thought maybe Some teams will nick a win here and there, maybe like 1 win, 2 wins. Today, everybody eats the season. Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, everybody's eating, and I'm just happy that we're at the table. We've got a plate.
To be honest, I think what made this season more exciting is not that McLaren now. I mean, if personally, ever since Miami, I think McLaren has the fastest or the better package than the whole grid.
Yeah,
Maybe I would say Spain was kind of close between Red Bull and McLaren. They would let it on par, but every other race, I just see McLaren have the faster or the better package than the rest. Um, my only thing that I've noticed so far is like, okay, McLaren have um, like oh, somebody said my voice is too loud. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you now. You was cutting out before. I think maybe I don't know. Just maybe pick up the mic a little, go
Check,
closer.
check,
Yeah,
check.
yeah.
Hello.
I don't know if there's a loose connection or something.
Okay. What I was saying is, now that McLaren is here, it's about maintaining this trajectory. And
Yeah,
when we go back and we said we're going to speak about Red Bull, something Adrian Newey said, and then I look, and again, I understand it's Twitter and people have the right. There's delusion on both sides. There's
of
delusion on
course.
a non-Red Bull fans. Uh, there's delusion from non-Red Bull fans, and then there's delusion on the Red Bull fans. When Adrian Newey said, I think around March, that
Yeah,
they see that the learning curve or the performance curve is about to be flattened at the top
yeah.
because they don't see how far they can improve this car. Everyone is saying, "Oh yeah, it's just the same." So, oh, I almost knocked out his mic. Uh, and he's just saying that, just to give hopium to the non-Red Bull or to Red Bull competitors and all that stuff. But now I see the case. He's right, and I think it's one of the videos that I posted. The video of Fred Vasseur doing the Liliati entrance,
Yeah,
and I was just I was just mocking around. I thought, yeah, he's talking, but let's use his comments as for fun. But now I see, no, Adrian Newey was right, but it's not Ferrari who's on top. It's McLaren. And I
yeah.
don't know what the hell happened with Ferrari, honestly, ever since Monaco. It's like they used all their upgrades and their luck and everything to build the car to win Monaco and season over. Finito. But to be fair to them, in Hungary, they were the calmest team on the grid. Funny enough to think about it.
Yeah.
Looking at Red Bull, do you see McLaren in any way they could snatch the constructor championship?
Oh, constructors is completely on. This is 51 points, and they've got one driver. If you combined Oscar's points and Lando's points right now, they've got more points than Max Verstappen. If that continues at the same rate, and Perez is not scoring at the rate, or whoever his replacement is, I hope they don't replace him. Please stay, Perez. We love you. You stay. You stay at Red Bull. But yeah, that's definitely up for grabs. 51 points is nothing. Look how much points were swung just this weekend alone. Just one weekend. If Red Bull have a Singapore weekend where they're barely in the points, and McLaren are straight up there, the one thing that about McLaren and Red Bull that's happening at this moment in time is you mentioned that just now when you said the curve is flattening and so on. Andrea Stella said at the end of last year, we haven't even done 50% of the stuff that we want to do in this car. So that curve is not flattening for McLaren.
I mean, I agree with you on that because
So and they haven't brought an upgrade since they brought an upgrade, I think,
yeah,
in Austria, or Silverstone, I think they brought a front wing, but they've only brought one major upgrade in Miami,
yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. I think
Red
that's what
Bull
they did.
been throwing the kitchen sink at that car. They've been doing weird stuff with the cannons, and they brought an upgrade in Imola, they brought an upgrade in
Yes,
Barcelona, they brought an upgrade in Silverstone, now one in Hungary. They're not cashing in like I was expecting two temps. I think Max Verstappen after practice said, "Oh, I want to be a little bit ahead now. I think this upgrade's going to put us a little bit ahead. The problem with Red Bull is I think the car is fast, but they can't set that car up properly. You saw in Austria after they did a sprint race and they had a whole race of data, they set up that car up. When it came to quali, Max Verstappen on qualifying, he put a huge gap on the rest of the field. And then the race, he was comfortable.
I think. By the way, can you hear me clearly now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I hope the rest, because a lot of people tell me here. I mean, Anas specifically is telling me he can't hear me, but I hope
I can hear you. I can hear you clear now, even better now.
Okay, so I think Red Bull, they're having a W14 syndrome, which is the car has a very narrow window of operation, and if you can get it, the car's going to work well, and if you don't, then everything's just slipping apart. Okay, it's just there's one thing for me that it's just kind of like I feel like Red Bull, they are fighting two uphill battles, one with the car, and secondly, it's not a dig at Checo or anything. Please, nobody kill me for it. With some of the mistakes, and I think the crash that Checo had in Monaco and the crash that he had in Hungary as well, it kind of put a little bit of a dig on the Red Bull budget. Like every crash you do when you're delaying the upgrades that they need, and you can tell almost, I'm not saying 100%, but you can tell almost that they're a little bit affected by it, because the only upgrade we saw is on Max's car. We've never seen Red Bull do that before. Red Bull, usually they would bring upgrade together and test them, and then they would be like, okay, you're going to run the race on the old version, and you're going to run on the new, and we can see and stuff like that. Like, because they were comfortably ahead to test things out and see where this goes and where that goes. And but now I think that a little bit they know that Max is winning driver championship. He can do it all by himself, obviously with a little bit of help from the team, but they just know all the money, all the purses in the constructors. It's not in it's not in the drivers championship. And biggest example, look at Toto celebrating in 2021 winning the 8 constructors, because that's where the bag is. It's 100%. Not the driver. So the other thing I want to mention is Mercedes.
Yeah,
it's one of the teams that we always picked at, even me as a Lewis and a Mercedes fan. We're all like just giving them jabs, low blows for not being able to bring proper upgrades, not being competitive. Ever since 2022, it's like they had a barn door that only works in Brazil, and it just the rest is the same, nothing changes. Now James Allison, ever since he took that nose with him on the airplane after Imola, it's like that man, he knew what he was doing, he knew he was about to cook something. And the car just turned different. I'm not saying the car was better in Hungary, but I feel we could see this car like turn up in some races, and some races may not just be where it wasn't like in Hungary, but in some races will be like as competitive as we saw in Silverstone. Do you believe that Mercedes finally got it and they could as well turn up and do a McLaren or Aston Martin as we thought at some point when they showed up in 2023? Or do you think this is where probably Mercedes will be at and they'll stop? Because I think what did they say Spa is their last upgrade? They're not bringing any more upgrades, I think.
Yeah, because they've brought quite a lot of upgrades this year already to just turn it around, because the launch car was not good.
Yeah. So what do you think? If Mercedes is in the mix, do we think that's 80% the constructors is not going to Red Bull? Because Mercedes is obviously going to be hurting Red Bull with one driver being back.
I think I look back at Silverstone in the first stint before it started to rain. Mercedes was faster they were the fastest car out there. And I know they've got these little windows where, okay, if it's the cool temperatures, if everything's okay, that's where that car can perform. And it kind of is reminiscent to what McLaren were last year. Like, there were those races that they were really, really good, and then there was races they were completely nowhere, even after the upgrade, just because it really depended on circumstance. I even look back to Spa last year, McLaren were nowhere. in the race. We were nowhere on the straights. We were terrible. And I think Mercedes, once they start I think it's about understanding a car and understanding how to set it up rather than let's just put upgrades on this car or non-stop. It's really about trying to find the window and making the operating window as wide as possible. And I think they're learning that at this moment in time. And as the season goes on, they're going to be another team that will take points of Checo and take points of Red Bull even like this weekend. I think, well, you wouldn't, if I told you, Hamilton was going to finish ahead of Verstappen in that race and Verstappen was going to struggle to overtake him, I would have never believed you in that scenario.
In the ground effect.
In the ground effect era as well. So, and that's a race that Verstappen's won in Hungary in the last 2 years. Like it was a joke to him. It was so easy to him. This is, the more teams are competitive, the more points that get, the more times they will knock down Checo down the pecking order and be able to be a threat to Max. That is going to be a serious problem for the constructors. Max looked very concerned. I think everybody else looks quite happy.
I mean,
all the other
I
teams.
agree with you, and I think everyone is praying that Checo stays on that seat until the end of the season. I mean, I know there's the Twitter agenda as usual, like, oh yeah, that's it, the bro is done, send him home, like that's it, time for you to go, go somewhere else, learn a different language and join another workforce. But like if you look at it as competitors, they'll be like, please, Red Bull, keep him in that seat. And I'm sure anybody like who cares about competition will be like, the only way we can have this type of stuff is Checo being in that position. If they bring a guy who's at least, let's say, 2-3 tenths off Max in qualifying and about a 2 tenths per lap slower than Max in the race, Red Bull will be there. Yeah. Whatever Red Bull is, that guy's going to be just slightly behind Max or could turn up in a race, just like was Checo doing in 2022. Like races where Max did not turn up, Checo won them. Yeah. But then, 2024, like this is a whole different Checo. Like I've never, like I thought it's just a phase because he had this type of phases in the last couple of races. Or even last season, like we're talking about the RB19, that is the most dominant car relative to the grid. And obviously Max was the one to carry all those numbers, but still, like to be that far off at the second half of the season, being behind the Ferraris, they were fast at the end of the season last year. Even being behind Mercedes or McLaren last season, that was a little bit mad in my opinion. Somebody said here, Mahad, they are saying Piastri will live off this win, like how Sergio Roberto did after the PSG game.
If Oscar Piastri performed like Sergio Roberto in the latter years, I think Sergio Roberto's gone. I celebrated. I went out for a meal by myself. I was so happy. But no, he's not going to live off that. Oscar's very good. That's the difference between him and Sergio Roberto. Oscar's good. Okay.
Don't bring those two names next to each other.
That's disrespect.
It's unfair. Completely unfair. Since we mentioned Mercedes, I think it's only fair we bring. And for me personally, I have nothing to bring about the Ferrari. As I said, this is the calmest race weekend I've seen they had in a very long time. Like no radio babysitting, no Charles screaming on the radio, no Carlos having some extra tiki-taka tactics on the radio. Just everything normal. Like just they came, did their job, got the results and the points or whatever they could do with that car, and they left. And they were closer than where we expected they would be. I thought they would be much further down, but no, they were closer. Red Bull here, it is the main topic, and we've seen, first of all, I think everyone was saying, oh yeah, these upgrades might turn up and they may do well. And we've seen either articles, we've seen posts, we've seen tweets, but this was not the case. And usually I understand some upgrades, they do not work right away after you put them in the car. Some of them, they take a couple of races. We've seen that like with McLaren when they brought the upgrades last year in Silverstone, the car just turned up right away. It's working. And I know a friend who, okay, I don't want to be that kind of guy who says I know a guy who knows a guy, but like I know some, okay, I know somebody who works in a McLaren, and I know that the week before Silverstone they told me they had sleepless nights, tireless nights, working to bring that 2023 upgrades to Silverstone to turn that car around. They were right,
Yeah.
and the results showed up. And sometimes some teams do that, and the case could not be that. Uh, where do you see Max Verstappen? Let's talk about the lad, because for me, he had one of the craziest and funniest weekends I've ever seen in terms of team radios or whatever wheel to wheel action he was doing there.
Yeah. That was. I'm a fan of Max. I know that's going to be some shocking thing to you guys or whatever. Yeah,
No,
but
for me,
I
but yeah,
I liked Max from the second he entered F1. I was like, this guy's very quick. This guy is going to be a world champion. I said this from a long time ago. But he has these weekends. He hasn't had it in a while where he's just completely head loss. Yeah, I don't know whether he felt like his race engineer was gaslighting him. He just like, I've had enough. You could tell from the beginning, yeah. He first of all, he felt like he was forced off track by Lando. That was like strike one. That's strike in his head. It's strike one. First of all, they're telling me to give the position back. That's something I never do. I'm not giving the position back. This is a joke. And he was told to do that because he's thinking in his head, GP's not fighting for me against the stewards. He's not fighting against me. He's not fighting for me, if that makes sense.
he's leaving me to the dogs.
Yes, he's leaving me to the dogs. Secondly, I feel bad for Max Verstappen. Yeah, they're giving him the worst strategy of all time. Hungary, they're letting this guy get undercut by Lewis Hamilton not once, twice. And he's like, "Are you guys stupid? Like, why are you just leaving me out here to just be like food for the dogs, basically, right?" So that's another. That's strike two. You've given me a shit strategy now. Yeah, for no reason. Yeah. Strike three is now, okay, now I have to race Lewis Hamilton and try to overtake this guy. Yeah. And
the guy in his
the frustration level is
the
hit the
guy
max.
the guy who is in his nonchalant era.
Exactly.
He's just there for vibes. After Silverstone, he's there for vibes. That's
exactly. Lewis Hamilton's working his notice, he's relaxing, whatever. This guy's like, oh my God, I need to get a podium. McLaren, I want to. I'm trying to save this situation. I should be up there with those guys, right? And I think another little a little bit of spice to the frustration as well is that when he gave the position back to Lando, he thought, let me keep up with Lando. Lando checked out. And he's like, okay, so this car's slow as well. You're giving me a shit car. So that's another thing added to the frustration, right? And then it all boiled over. He was like, he just saw the flash of red because he's like, he feels like Lewis Hamilton's moving under braking whilst he's trying to overtake him. I got penalized for moving under braking in Austria. This is bullshit. I'm just going for it. And this is I ain't seen a Max performance like this since Turkey 2020.
Listen, I have seen all desperate attempts of Max before. To this level of that dive bomb, I was like, where bro's going? He thinks he's an F1 game or what? I was reading some of the comments here. Somebody said, okay, Anas, he said, Red Bull now has the same problem as Mercedes had before. Computer data isn't matching the real telemetry. Is that the coloration?
The correlation. Yeah, and that's the thing that McLaren are very good at. They let it marinate. They put it in the oven, they leave it.
Okay, don't forget, McLaren have the newest wind tunnel of the grid.
And Red Bull has the oldest.
And the World War II or something like that. I think they're using. I mean, the only man who could operate that, it was Mr. Adrian Newey. That man left, or not. He didn't leave, but he's like, okay, I'm not putting my hand anymore on this thing. You guys do this.
Yeah.
Everyone got lost. Z said Verstappen when he hasn't. Z said Verstappen when he doesn't have a mad car performance advantage. Spooky #head loss. Katie said Verstappen head loss was amazing to watch. Peak entertainment. I mean, yeah, I mean it was completely entertaining because the radios, they were just funny. The one part that made me sad is when GP told Max, Uh, okay, give him a gentle introduction, like about overtaking Leclerc. Like just do it nicely. Like you don't have to
Yeah,
be overcooking the tires.
yeah.
And he went on that rant. Like, no, you guys gave me this fucking shit strategy. You guys weren't in this. You do not tell me. And then they cut the camera to Hannah Schmitz and GP, both of them like this. Like, what do you do with this guy now?
I know.
What do you even say to him? I think the last time I saw Max like this, it was 2018.
Yeah.
2019, I don't recall any race for him 2019 that he had a mad uh,
No, that
bad
was
shit. I mean,
2019 is more in the media rather than in the car.
yeah. Oh, I think 2019 him and Leclerc in
Yeah,
Austria about the whole pushing him off and all that stuff.
yeah,
And so like it's just like he's been good ever since Red Bull turned up to the ground effect era.
mm,
He was doing his thing. Um, trying to be. I think he's the only driver on the grid who had less mistakes than anybody ever since 2022.
yeah,
Like you rarely see him do mistakes. The car turn up, checks out 30-second, 40-second, 50-second, whatever the hell he was doing. It was boring to watch, to be honest.
yeah.
And my problem with him as a driver, or what he's been doing in his dominance, I have nothing but respect. But there's nothing I could say about that. I could do the hate watch all I want, but he leaves you nothing. Like he, even the crumbs he doesn't leave, he licks them. Like he leaves you
Yeah.
nothing to talk about. This, however, like the way how he just went for that dive bomb, and Lewis was so cheeky. Is like, you know what? I'm gonna keep my steering wheel straight. If he makes a contact, he makes the contact. If he doesn't make the contact, the corner is mine. And you can see Lewis first thing on the radio. Check my steering input. I did not move that steering wheel. So yeah, out. Uh, Austria, the same thing. The desperation in defending.
Mm,
Uh, I don't want to be like, oh yeah, Max this, Lando that. But it's just you can see it like when things it's like it doesn't feel like right to him. He goes into this head loss. You know, like bro goes crazy. He's not the same, and you're like, is Max really the guy that we know in his dominance, or he's just like that personality never leaves? It's just it shows up when things are not right. Like this is the Max I see in my opinion.
do you know what it is? I think it's different. I think before it used to be frustration about, oh, the car is not quite right, something slow, I'm being treated unfairly, and so on. The two incidents you talk about, Austria and when you're talking about what's happened in the last race in Hungary, it's because he's been goaded. Yeah. In Austria, he's like, how dare this guy dive bomb me? Multiple occasions and not be penalized for this. That's why he was saying, oh, you can't just dive bomb. Because he's just like offended. Like, who does this person, who does Norris think he is doing this to me? He's doing my tactics to me. Who does he think he is? And that's where he was like, okay, I've had enough. I'm gonna race him hard because he's trying to race me hard, right? So he got goaded into that situation, right? This one here, he got goaded by GP. GP pissed him off. It's GP's fault. I'm telling you now, it's GP's fault because GP pissed him off. The way they were talking,
man,
he had enough. He had enough. That's what made him lose his head. I 100% believe that.
Listen. I think if there's I think the calmest person on earth is GP. Don't tell me otherwise, because
Yeah,
that
100% he's very calm. He's very calm.
To deal with Max Verstappen head loss, and it's not the one or second or third time. We've seen it throughout this season, last season, the seasons before. Ever since Max jumped on that Red Bull, we've seen this with Max. And to be that, and I think the relationship they built over the years to get to here, for him, GP, this probably is just comedy. He's sitting there and like laughing in his head, but like, I'm gonna smack this kid in the back door later when I see him, because what is he gonna say to GP? Even even if
GP's
he
probably thinking, who you're talking
to. Exactly, yeah. Who you talking to, bro? Like, shut up. And apologize to everyone for what you did out there. Okay, now let's talk about what happened out there in the performance. But yeah, if this I think continues, is I think it's game over for the constructors. Katie said like Lewis and Max losing their heads when they see each other on track is hilarious. I mean, you're not wrong because think about it. When have we seen Max and Lewis actually go? This is the longest, by the way, and I think I've
Since
tried to
21.
go not even 2021 because 2021 they had 1-2 laps together and then yeah one overtakes the other and it's done.
Or one crash. Or we crashed
Or
into
one
each other.
crash into each other. Exactly. So this is the longest they've gone in a race without bumping into each other. Like what? 8 laps?
Yeah.
9 laps? I was amazed because it was like this is amazing. Like this is what I want. I don't want these guys just crashing into each other. But then the desperation kicked in,
He
and
overtook him and he lost the position. He went wide.
it, yeah, the one yeah when he went wide, I was like when I saw him, I was like yeah, Lewis locked up, a position
It's
gone. He's
over.
going after the McLaren. Then I see bro going. I was like, where's bro going? Like hey, you forgot brakes. Brakes are not clutch, bro. You're pressing the wrong thing. He goes wide and I was like, Lewis, thank you very much. You helped me with that. The funniest part about the whole crash is Bottas being the one behind to see it happen.
He's watching it.
But I was like, Bottas is meant to be with Lewis and Max when they crash with each other since the Mercedes days, and now with Sauber, he's just watching that happen in front of him. Bro was like, is this 2021? Because I recall myself with them. Um, Now, there's one thing about, we spoke about Lewis, everyone. We need to talk about Georgie Boy.
Yeah.
And this is what we came here for. So, George Russell, okay, credit is given with you. Man was phenomenal at qualifying this season.
Yeah.
Multiple times he outqualified Lewis. I know there's Lewis interview in Monaco when he said like, I know walking into the season I'm gonna be always 2 tenths off George. He didn't bring the specifics like as in saying like Mercedes they're not gonna show him the full cards, but they're like basically gonna show him what he needs to work with when it comes to race. Because technically now he's not part of the team next year, and obviously as he's going to be their competitor, they're not going to show him their full hand. So uh, part of it, I don't want to say I believe it, but part of it I do.
Yeah.
Maybe Lewis has a point, and not only Lewis. We've seen this with multiple drivers who announced their departure from a team earlier. You can notice there's a little bit of change in their performance. It's not like the team is sabotaging or anything. No. It's just there's only much they can do with them and show them.
Yeah.
And if they have a good teammate next to them, it's gonna show actually. And I think that's what's happening with Lewis. Now, when we look at George and him and Norris, and which is the topic we're here for, Lando Norris and George Russell, the Battle of Brits. Before we get into this topic any further, as long as Lewis is on the grid, it doesn't matter as a driver, as I don't care, supportive role, janitor, it doesn't matter. If Lewis is on the grid, Lewis is the guy. Lewis is that number one Brit on the grid. Nobody can talk. Norris, George can rest. But we know Lewis probably have maximum another 4 years in him if he wants to even go further than that. Then who comes after that? You have two talented drivers. You have George, you have Lando. I think when they both joined into F1, a lot of people were saying like, "Oh yeah, well, Lando this, Lando that." Yeah, George just scrapping around in the Williams, but then to be fair to George, like that Williams was nowhere compared to the McLaren. And then when George joined Mercedes, kind of people's like, "Oh yeah, why is George is that guy?" Especially George won his first race before Lando, and then now McLaren is in a better position than Mercedes, and Lando managed to win a race. Could have been two for this weekend if it wasn't for the team order. So, where do you see this conversation about George and Lando going? And who do you see in your eyes? I know you're a biased McLaren fan.
Yes.
But in your eyes, who do you see is better than the other?
Me personally, of course. And this, I'm not saying, I am, of course, biased because this is McLaren Fan TV. As you can see, I'm always going to say Norris. But I do rate Russell highly. I think he's a very, very, very good driver. And one thing I have noticed this season is Russell puts in very, very good performances and nobody cares. The wider F1 world are not paying attention to this at all. And I don't know what's going on, but they're just not really paying attention to Russell. And maybe, look, if you're going to be the face of British motorsport, you got to be relevant. And he's not relevant. No matter if it's good or bad, Norris is in the headlines. And do you know why? Russell for some reason, he just doesn't attract the eyes of the pundits and everybody that's around F1 that creates the furore of what this sport is. I just don't understand why, personally. And even now, when you hear Toto Wolff is after Max Verstappen and he's after Kimi Antonelli, what does that mean about how they perceive Russell? Because that's a crazy thing. If two drivers were linked to McLaren, yeah, and they were like, "Oh, Oscar's staying though," what would that say about Norris? That would mean, hey, listen, we're not really attached to this guy. We can let him go. We got Kimi Antonelli, he's the new great. We got the great Max Verstappen. Toto's in his DMs like, no. Come through. Let's have dinner. Whatever. Russell has no PR, even from his. I think Toto's his manager. From his own manager, he doesn't have any PR regarding these performances. And I think he's there. I think he's been fantastic against Lewis Hamilton. But with Lewis Hamilton, I know this guy, man. I seen him at McLaren. When the car is shit, he's gonna take a day off. He doesn't. What does it matter? Lewis Hamilton, if he's not fighting for a race win, you're not getting 100% Lewis Hamilton. He does not care. He does not care. He will fight for points. He will do his best performance for the team, whatever. But I'm telling you now, Russell has not faced full 100% Lewis Hamilton, right? Lewis Hamilton maybe dialed it up to 80%, and look what happened last season. And with Russell, I think last year was the picture painted about what Russell is at this moment in time. Even though he is repairing the damage this season with his performances against Lewis Hamilton, especially in qualifying, last year that was a bad year. He even said himself it's the worst season of his career. And Norris has never had a season that bad, ever. He's not even had a stretch of races that bad.
You know what it is? I want to disagree, but I don't disagree. This is my personal opinion, my personal picture.
Yeah.
In the junior series,
yeah,
F4, F3, F2, and all of that, George was better than Lando. Ever since they came to F1, Lando was better than George in every way. But I think there is a turning point for both drivers, and it's in their hands. As I said, okay, Lando, I agree with you, hadn't had a bad year the way George had. Take, for example, 2021, there were some races where George could have actually scored points before that whole Hungary P6, P9 because of, multiple cars.
Where Latifi outscored him.
Yeah, I forget. Yeah, I was about to say P6. That's why I said P6, P9. And when I said it, I was like, hold on. That's Latifi in P6. Let's not forget. Also, George was asked to be to pit, I think, or give the position back because of all that what happened. Because both Williams were in the lead at some point coming out of the pit, and I think is it because George? Oh no, I think George cut the line and all that stuff. So anyway, what I'm trying to get at is that I think when Lewis is out of the picture, and if 2026 comes around, well, let's say no, not even 2026. Let's talk about next season. I agree with you about the whole Toto wanting Max, because in my head I'm like, you have Kimi Antonelli, you have George Russell. These are two talented drivers. Why are you going so bad after Max? And the thing is not just Toto. Like even the Mercedes CEO was I forgot which race was it, Imola or what race was it? He
Yeah,
was
I know what
president
you're talking about. Yeah, he was
in
talking
Austria.
about him
In
as well.
Austria, in
Yeah.
Austria, yeah, and he said he's like, well, it's not just Toto because he owns AMG 30%, blah blah blah. Even us as Mercedes, um, Benz and Stuttgart want to see Max Verstappen in the Silver Arrows fit, and you're like, damn. I was like, is Joe Russell getting the treatment of Nico Rosberg over here? Because
Mm.
Nico Rosberg, when he came to Mercedes with Michael Schumacher, who was my first favorite F1 driver, he thought that, yeah, Michael has 2 3 seasons in his pocket, checks out. I'm that guy in the team. And then they're like, well, we called Lewis Hamilton. He's coming here. So in his head, it's like, bro, like I've
It's
been here
crazy.
with you all this time. Like I've been with you here. Why you want Lewis? So I kind of see this circle, but with different names. Like it's the same storyline, but it's the names have changed.
Yeah.
George is Nico in this position, and Max is Lewis in this position of wanting to switch teams. Similar how people told Lewis, "Why would you even leave McLaren? Like, bro, you're finished." It's like the Saudi
Why would you
pro
leave
league
Red Bull?
move. Yeah, yeah. It's like you leave in Premier League and you go into the Saudi league. Why you want to
Yeah.
do that, bro? Like, yeah, you're finished. That's it. Go. You won one championship and you're gonna never win again. But look at
Yeah.
Lewis' career now.
Yeah.
Man solidified himself with all the
They'll
stats and
say they'll
everything.
say the same to Max. They'll say the same to Max. They'll say, "Why are you leaving Red Bull? Mercedes are finished."
Yeah,
This is
Mercedes could
down.
not. There's a chance maybe Mercedes doesn't turn up in 2026, but the fact he will be there, there's a lot of exclamation points on uh, on George.
Yeah.
And George, I think, has. This is why I said there's a turning point coming in their careers.
Yeah.
Oscar is not pushover.
Yeah.
He's not the guy that you can just, uh, Mark Webber him or Valtteri Bottas him around, and yeah, he will obey you and be the nice guy and listen to you and everything. If he has the piss to get you, he will get you. It doesn't
Mm.
matter. Do what you do, because this is the first time we've seen. Look, we've seen. Okay, I think we've seen the kid 3 times in the lead, and in all 3 times, no, he didn't win the sprint of Qatar, right? He didn't win it, did he?
Who? Oscar.
Oscar,
Yeah.
did
Remember?
he
Do you
win
remember
this?
who? Do you remember who was in the lead in the sprint of Qatar? And
It
he
was
cooked his
Max.
tires. No, it was Russell. He cooked his tires. Russell was in the lead of Qatar sprint, cooked his tires. Oscar overtook him. Oscar won the sprint race.
Yeah, yeah. So Oscar won the sprint in Spa.
No, he came
Or
second
did
in the
he?
sprint as well. He was in the
Oh yeah,
lead because he changed the tires first to
yeah, yeah,
Aces.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, McLaren was fast when it was wet and cool, and then when it dried out and got
We
hot,
were
the car
finished.
became so slow. Yeah. Now I remember. Yeah. Okay. So when we saw Oscar in the lead in Qatar, he checked out. This race, when he took the lead in turn one, everyone thought that Max or Lando, they're gonna catch him. They were
Yeah,
nowhere near. He was pulling the gap on them. Not that
yeah,
big of a gap, but it proved that when he got the lead, clean air, nobody in front of him, he
yeah,
shot a whole different guy.
yeah.
His second and third stint, they were a little bit messy, yeah, because I think there was a little bit of emotions, but he wasn't showing it on the mic and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna have to understand that. Lando, for me, however, he has the chance over George to be in that big image of the Brits conversation
Yeah,
after Lewis Hamilton, obviously, as I said. Like, as long as Lewis is still there, it's a whole different conversation. Because, okay, McLaren PR does better job for you
yeah.
than the Mercedes PR would. George is PR trained,
Mm.
but doesn't have
He's a
like
politician.
yeah, I don't mean to say this, and nobody please tell me that I think of him that way, but he gives me like Tory vibes, like
Yeah,
the time you see him, like he's always like the back is straight like this. And even I think after he got Paul in Silverstone, he was standing there like who was it interviewing him? Was it oh, Jensen Button, I think, was interviewing him
yeah,
after he got Paul. he answers Jensen, and while Jensen is asking him, he's waving like a diva, like to the crowd, and then goes back to answering. And like, bro, like just do one thing at a time. Like you don't have to be all Mr. Perfect.
And look at the
But
opposite to Lando. Lando is like a YouTuber, social influencer type of vibe.
he kind of does give that. But I think the one thing we should bring about Lando this race weekend, I think that man was in a whole different image. I've never seen him before. Like the whole thing about him and McLaren radios, it it's like I swear God, one more radio, and I'm sure they would have like Lando, please, we beg you. Like I think that was the next radio if he didn't give the position to Oscar. And sometimes like he throws a fit. You know the type of people who gets angry but they would still smile in your face. I
Yeah.
think Lando is that type of guy. And him just lashing out at Lewis out of nowhere, and even Lewis was like, "Bro, just giving you compliments. Like, chill out. Dealing with 7 years. You weren't even here 7 years, bro. Calm
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
Sit down. Sit this one out. You're not winning this
yeah, yeah.
argument over here." So I think Lando has his moments. George, we've seen his moments in Japan last season when he was about the well, if we're gonna play the teammate game, blah 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 blah.
He's asked for remember, do you remember last season? Can we count the amount of times he asked for team orders?
Huh?
On Lewis, the amount of times he tried to request team orders.
Until Toto told him, bro, sit down.
He asked for team orders so many times with Lewis Hamilton, and he's not remembering that this is Lewis Hamilton.
Which is why I would love to see Max Verstappen in Mercedes because I want to see how that
Don't
goes.
ask for Max Verstappen. Oh, are we doing the team game? Max Verstappen don't care about no team.
Uh, Good luck asking for team orders from Max if he comes to Mercedes. And the other thing, I agree with you. And what do you think about this whole rumor? I think it's just like a rumor, just came like a puff of cloud that just passes over and goes. It doesn't rain, it doesn't do anything. It's just you see it passing in a clear sky and it
Yeah.
goes. This whole thing that I've heard, I don't know who is it, Planet F1 or who, they posted something about possible uh, talks between Audi and George Russell. And I was like, it's like why?
If he sees the writing is on the wall, and Toto's plan is to put Max Verstappen and Kimi Antonelli in that seat, he has to do it and build something from scratch. That's the only way. I've never seen Toto speak about a driver like he speaks about Kimi Antonelli.
Not only Kimi, I got the chance to meet the kid, by the way.
Yeah.
Very, very calm guy for his age, and the way how he's dealing with everything. Despite he had that scrappy start of the season, I mean, I blame Prima honestly. If you ask me, I wouldn't blame either Ollie or Kimi. Uh, uh, it's just not only Toto, I think even James Allison, everyone spoke about the stints he's done and the tests he's done. He was very impressive with the car and what they given him. And I was like, either Mercedes struck gold and they have something legit under their belt, or they just want to give a good PR for the kid to put him in a seat in F1. Okay, it could be Williams, it could be anywhere. And then when they bring Max Verstappen into Mercedes and put him up with George, they would test the water to see if George would, just could you like go somewhere else, please,
Yeah.
please, George, like please, we need that seat for Kimi.
Hey, this is what they tried to do with Lewis Hamilton with the offer of the contract they gave him. Why did they give him 1+1? You don't give Lewis Hamilton a 1+1 unless you're telling him, we've got a plan after you, man. We need to kind of speed this up. Toto was traumatized from losing Max Verstappen when he was younger. He's like, I don't want to lose Kimi Antonelli. Because guess what Red Bull can do? Oh, we'll just drop our AlphaTauri drivers. We'll put them in the Visa Cash App. We don't care. We'll sign Kimi Antonelli, put him in the Visa Cash App. He don't want that scenario to happen.
Game over for him if that happens.
You don't want an Alpine situation where you lose Oscar Piastri.
You don't want an Alpine situation where you lose Oscar Piastri, Fernando Alonso, and Esteban Ocon.
That's what losing all these drivers are on the pursuit of Max Verstappen. So, do you know what? Yeah, let's swing it back to Lando and to Russell. I think Lando is in a more fortuitous situation right now because Lando's in a very, very, very fast car. He has a very, very fast teammate. All he has to do is establish dominance over this teammate. and simply just say, look, I'm the guy here. We saw him yesterday sending a message saying, no, I'm quicker than this guy. Look at the gap. I told this guy catch up. He didn't catch up. He's dropping it in the gravel. We're going to see more of that. Listen, I'm a McLaren fan. I'm kind of used to teammates beefing each other and tension between teammates. I've seen it quite a lot. I grew up with it. 2007, I still got anxiety about 2007 McLaren season. That's going to go on. There's going to be a power struggle within that team. Lando, in his mind, he had a power struggle initially with Daniel Ricciardo because they signed Daniel Ricciardo to be the number one driver. They didn't respect Lando. They said, we're signing Daniel Ricciardo. He's the number one driver. In the first race, Daniel Ricciardo performed well. Lando Norris said, I'm going to destroy this guy. And what happened? So he's got a job in his hand now. And Oscar's, it's the same mentality. So we're going to see clashes
here. The other thing that I want to bring up, because I agree with you, McLaren now has a fast car. Personal opinion, not a dig at Lando or anything. Ever since McLaren got the fast car, and this is just, I am yet to see a race where McLaren comes in, Lando dominates. Like when he got pole position in Hungary, I saw a different face. Like I didn't see him smiling, celebrating. It's just like got off the car, took off his helmet, and did the interview and left. And I was like, okay, he's locked in.
Yeah.
But it all matters at the race. Bad start. Lost the position. And obviously, Max doing what Max wants to do and taking that position kind of hindered him not to be the one behind Oscar instead of Oscar being in front of Max until Max gave the position.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Yeah, he was trying to prove the point that I am faster than Oscar. And he did prove his point. But the whole scenario was about who comes out first in that turn one. Oscar did. And I think you can tell from the tone of the radio that the team was already agreed upon this. Like, Oscar, if you take the lead, make it clean. Make sure you both be clean. Don't scrap each other out or anything and give others a chance. You take the lead. Strategy is in your favor. You take the lead. The same goes for you. Bang. We had a whole different scenario. The Miami win, which is still in my head. Like, I know a lot of people that like Lando got lucky with the safety car. If it wasn't for safety car, he wouldn't have won that race.
Yeah.
In a way, yes. But also, like, when he got that lead, it's like, okay, Lando, safety car helped you. You're in the lead. Max is behind you. What you going to do? He did exactly what he had to do and won the race.
Checked out.
So, I think now, so far, for Lando, like George Russell, when he won his first race, dominated. I'm not going to say dominated. Lewis was right there with him within the second. And I think if it wasn't for the Lewis and Max crash, Lewis would have been on him. Because that crash put Lewis all the way back, and Lewis had to climb back the positions and get all the way to where he was. But George did what he had to do, kept his position, started from pole. Oh, no, he didn't start from pole. He did start from pole because
the sprint race. He won the sprint.
Yeah, the sprint. He won the sprint, so it means it's pole. Yeah, that format. Fucking hell. It's a crappy format. Like it doesn't.
I still hate sprint races. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just nonsense. Because for me, sprint just kills the joy of a race because you from the sprint know where everybody at. Why do we even need that? If it doesn't make sense, you want to make a difference, make it a reverse grid. Let me see faster cars start from behind and see Logan Sargent starting from pole. I would love to see that. So yeah, back to the point. Like, I'm yet to see a race of Lando where he starts from pole, holds the lead, checks out, do like Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, Daniel Ricciardo in his prime, or anybody who just takes the lead and just runs with it and you never see him again in the dust. Boom. Or if you have the faster car, in my opinion, what happened in Austria, I think Lando could have handled that much better than what he did.
He did that. He was head loss as well. People think it's Max head loss. He was just like, I ain't moving for this guy. He's like, I've had enough. Because
Yeah,
you have to remember they know each other as well. They race each other
exactly.
online, whatever. He ain't scared of Max Verstappen. He said, "I'm just not gonna move. Fuck it, we'll both crash," which is not a wise idea, of course. But this is quite literally when I say this, I don't think anybody ever said this. Quite literally, this is one of the first times they ever raced each other in Formula One. They never even meet each other on track. That was literally one of the first times ever.
The first,
Lando's usually a back marker. Like Max is always up there. They've not really met each other on track like that.
so this is exactly what I'm saying is, so Lando is still has that, like, if you're let me go back circle with you. George Russell, his first time coming wheel to wheel with the Wood Max, that was one of the craziest defensive moves I've ever seen in a very long time. It was 2022 Spain when he squeezed Max into turn one, went wide so he can have the better racing line in
Yeah,
Spain. I'm talking.
yeah.
When I thought Max took the lead, and all of a sudden it's out of nowhere, like bro squeezes him out, go wide, and then switch back from the outside. I'm like, what is this guy doing? I was like, George Russell, I wasn't familiar with your game, bro. Like, chill out.
George is very, very good, and in those
Yeah,
aspects, he's
and
extremely
and
aggressive and stuff like that.
he has stupid moments
Look at
like what
Canada.
happened Canada 2023.
Look at Canada
Hold
this
on,
year.
Canada this year, he dropped the lead.
And
He could have won that race.
let me make a point here. Let me make a point here about Canada 2024. Yeah, George had that race under control. Lando stood back. He's like, let me use my experience. Let me sit on these tires. Before that Logan Sargent guy, I've got an agenda now, crashed his car. Lando checked out. He overtook Max. He overtook Russell. He checked out. He put 10 seconds on ahead in 3 laps. He was gone. So that thing where you said drive off into the distance, that was going to happen there. But this team, you have to understand, this team is handicapping both Oscar and Lando. This strategy team are taking the piss.
I feel bad for you because you're a Barcelona and McLaren fan. You take
I deal with inept management in all sports. Do you understand? This is, and do you know what's so funny? Yeah, it's with McLaren, the perception is that they should be here. They should know how to do these things just because of their previous iteration back in 2012 or whatever. They know how to manage a race and da. Only people in that organization that know how to manage a race is Andrea Stella and Oscar Piastri's radio engineer, Tom Stallard, who was Jenson Button's engineer back in the day. Yeah, they're the only guys that know how to coach a race. The rest of these guys don't know what's going on in the pit wall. They have no idea. So that's a severe handicap. You just box Lando, he wins the Canadian Grand Prix. You box Lando, he's there. Just put the fresh inters on, he wins the Canadian Grand Prix. He already did the hard work. He put 10 seconds on him. He's gone.
That pit stop hindered Lando a lot, and I agree with it because I remember watching it from TV and I was like, oh, they're not gonna box him. They're not boxing him. I was like, Max won this.
Oscar is hindered. Lando are hindered by what's going on in that pit wall. So I would take stuff with a pinch of salt because guess what? When Mercedes are in the lead, they know what they're doing. It's not like they forgot how to win races. They only won races for 8 years previous. They know what they did in that scenario. So Russell's in a good position that if he doesn't, he's in those places, he can believe in his team to coach him through that, to give him the right strategy to do what he needs to do. This is like watching toddlers with knives. Watching McLaren pit walls, watching toddlers with knives. They're gonna do something. How do you mess up a 1-2?
I'll be honest with you. I thought they're gonna mess up the 1-2 in Hungary. I was saying it's either McLaren 1-2, Lando winning, or a McLaren 1-3. McLaren will find a way to mess up Oscar's strategy or something like that. Because hold on, was it Silverstone? Yeah, in Silverstone. Why would you leave? Why would you leave Oscar like that out for the stray dogs to be eaten alone? Like there was no like. Hungary is one of the tracks that proves that if you pit 3 laps later, you might have a little bit of an like in Max's case. Yeah. Max was undercut by Mercedes, but he pitted 4 laps later, and even 4 laps showed that he has a little bit of tire advantage.
Yeah.
But when Lewis was in front of him on the same tires, the things were different. They were almost matching each other. So Hungary, we have learned from this over the years, and I know every year the tire compounds change a little bit,
but it's one of those tracks that you can see the difference in the tires between new and old, or this tire is 3 years, 3 years. What the fuck am I talking about? Four laps, 3 laps, 5 laps old. The difference is there until they come behind another car and they start cooking their tire, overheating it. Then that changes a little bit. So, in my opinion, the whole undercut on, I know a lot of people saying, "Oh no, 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 it's not an undercut on Oscar." No, that was an undercut on Oscar. You want Oscar to keep the lead, you're gonna pit him first. And it doesn't matter who he comes behind, because others will have Asian tires. And don't tell me Lando, or they're protecting Lando from Lewis. Mercedes, yeah, Lewis was fast. The car was
he was on hard tires, and they were going to put on mediums. They're worried.
And
I'm like, what are you talking about?
wouldn't
He's
have
10
the
seconds
pace.
behind. He's 10
Exactly.
seconds behind. What are you talking about? You saw Lewis Hamilton on the hards before he cooked his tires on the first stint of the first hards. So why are you worried about him? This is the problem. This is the problem. The team that these two guys are in at the moment, right now, have a midfield mentality. This is the problem. You can have a fast car. That's not a problem. You can have fast drivers, which is undoubtedly Lando and Oscar are. You can have those guys. But the team right now on the pit wall is a midfield mentality. And how can you win races when you got a midfield mentality? Why are you always looking behind you? In Silverstone, they were seeing ghosts. Why are you looking behind you? You had 1-2. Your drivers did the job. You put a wet setup on the car. They overtook both the Mercedes cars when it started raining, because you knew it was going to rain. So your overall strategy is good. But you have to have faith in your team to double stack. You have to have faith in your mediums that you've kept from Friday to use them and put them on Lando's car. What are we doing? And people will perceive it as Lando has no clutch gene. The team has no clutch gene. If they're bottling Oscar wins, what does that mean? Is it perceived that Oscar's not clutch? No, clearly it's the pit wall. Come on, guys, we have to wake up. We've got to wake up.
I mean, listen. If there's any, again, this is my personal opinion. If there's any point where I would agree with the comment of the Lux clutch genes, it would be maybe Austria. You said it. There was head loss from both Max and Lando. Lando did not need to have any head loss whatsoever. You just needed to keep it clean and have the perfect exit on the second DRS. You're going to get the guy. And there's nothing much he can do. It doesn't matter if he covers the inside, the outside, because you clearly had the faster car. Yeah, McLaren was slightly slower than the Red Bull when it comes to straight line speed, but DRS makes a whole lot difference when we talk about it. Okay, so that's a lack of clutch in that moment. The moment when it presented itself, like in Miami, the safety car did help. It did help a lot.
Yeah,
but when it presented there for him, he did what he had to do. But I think from this point moving forward, it's about Lando. The package looks fast. You do actually have the car. Now, what you do? You've started from pole in Hungary. Bad start. Things happen. When it came to
Hungary is one of the worst places to start pole, by the way.
Yeah, I know, but it's just like now from this point forward, you have a car that can be on pole.
Yeah.
Worst P2, P3, and you have a car that is presumably so far the fastest car on the grid when it comes to race pace, and you have the pace. So it's about having a clean, perfect weekend. Pole, win. No other thing is. And I agree with you on the part of the McLaren pit wall just created a whole scenario that made Oscar's win uncelebrable. And we said this at the start.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that they put Oscar in that situation. Not to say Oscar was perfect. Like, obviously, he lost that gap. He had a 4-second lead. He went walkies before he needed to pit, and then it cut down and it made it more complicated because that's where the undercut was, But you need to recognize that as a team and just pit Oscar first. If your protocol was to pick the lead driver first, stick to your protocol. It's about being brave. And right now, 2 races in a row, McLaren have not been brave. They weren't brave enough to put the mediums on Lando on the last stint at Silverstone. They wasn't brave to just pick the first car. Why are you looking behind you? Your race is literally Lando versus Oscar. That's your race. So pit the lead driver for fairness purposes, and that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. It's as simple as that. Why are you looking at the cars behind you? You have the fastest car. You literally was P1 in practice 2, P1 in practice 3, P1 in P2 in qualifying. It's a done deal. It's a done deal. You are miles down the road.
Bring out the Fernando Alonso clip. We finish P1 in practice, P1 in qualifying, P1 in the race. Total domination.
And that's what it was.
Exactly
that's what
happened.
And do you know
exactly what happened?
Do you know what it was? That is exactly what happened this weekend, but nobody's talking about it. And guess whose fault it is?
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying. I mean, look, in many ways, we've been speaking a lot about Lando now, but I think, okay, George Russell so far, like, he came walking into the season, again, regardless about Lewis' situation, that he's not a part of the team. And again, does some of the data stuff and things that they're not sharing enough with Lewis. Things that are regarding the races and stuff, they do share with Lewis, obviously. Things about development, they cannot do that anymore. George, in all fairness, showed up to this season and chose violence. Like,
100%.
Locked in. Right? The only difference where it showed what it matters is that when the car got fast, our Mercedes car became better. Lewis kind of like, and you said it before, like Lewis, when you give him a scrappy car, he's going to give you the best he can do, like, finishing the points or something like that. But when you give him a car that can get podiums or even fight for a win, we saw a whole different animal. Silverstone, hello. So I think George, from the start of the season up until Silverstone, he was doing a phenomenal job. Apart from Australia, when he had that crash, which is, I understand from what it looks like, there was brake checking from Alonso and all that. But there's also, if we are fair, George was a little bit like overcooking the tires. So if there is a scenario, McLaren, Mercedes, both of them on par, both of them fighting for the championship or fighting for race wins, like, let's say, like 2021 scenario, do you think Lando or George could clutch it? I think George. I'm just saying.
So right now, I think McLaren, I'm giving him grace. I'm giving him a practice year. Make all your mistakes right now.
Yeah.
Because if it was right now, and it was Russell, Lando, and they have equal cars, and they've got their respective teams, Mercedes will win and Russell will win just on the basis of that Russell and Mercedes have been it, and they know what to do, right? Lando is hampered by his team, right? We've seen these guys go will to will. If we speak about last year, right? Let's speak about last year, because
last year Lewis cooked George. Lewis cooked
George. Lando didn't have a car until Silverstone. Or Austria, I mean.
Yeah.
If you are George, you've had around the third, second, depending on the weekend, best car throughout the season. How do you get outscored by Lando?
Okay.
When this guy's had a handicap halfway through the season. We literally saw Miami. This guy was in a back marker. I went there. Bahrain 2023. I was there. Yeah. And I was like, what is going on at McLaren? I saw Lando racing with Max and Perez and so on, but he was being lapped. I was just like, let me just enjoy it anyway. He's in between these guys or whatever. That's what the level of team he was at. Up until, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds. George Russell. 8 races, George Russell had an advantage. And he finished on 175 points, and Lando was on 205. And in that scenario, even towards the latter part of the season, I think the Merc, Ferrari, and McLaren were kind of equal here and there, depending on the race.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not like one person had a significant car advantage over the other. The only person that did was Russell at the beginning of that season over
I think
Norris.
I think personal opinion could be wrong. The only race that hindered both Lewis and George when it comes to their driver standing is Qatar when they came together. I mean, it is Lewis did take the blame for it and fall back. I think Lewis lost what? A chance of scoring
Yeah,
18
but George
points.
finished fourth though.
Did he finish the race? Oh, yeah, he did finish
He
the race.
he
Yeah,
did a crazy comeback, and that's one of
yeah,
his
you're
best
right.
drives of
You're
his
right.
career.
Actually, he could have won that race actually if he
Yeah,
stayed on the track. If you think about it, but
yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. He did a great. That's one of his best races. I agree with you.
That's the only. I feel like this is the only Formula One sample set that we have where they were in similar cars. Throughout their years, Lando's been in a better car. He was in Williams. Can't really compare. Mercedes in 2022 was significantly better than McLaren. So Mercedes better than McLaren at the beginning of 2023, but it kind of evened out. That 2023 is the sample set.
Yeah, I mean,
And Russell finished bottom of that pile. He finished below Leclerc. He finished below Norris.
To be honest, look, 2023 is one of the craziest seasons for me in terms of, okay, forget Red Bull, like take Red Bull. Do you remember? Okay, good. It's good we're bringing this. Remember at 2023, we said, oh my God, if only there was no Red Bull, what the season would look like. We actually got that this season.
Yeah,
and we're not appreciating it a lot. We're not appreciating that a lot because we were like, oh my God, the 2020 season would be crazy if Red Bull was not there and Max specifically. Now Red Bull is, I'm not going to say they're moving backward, but they're standing still. But others are catching up. And we got exactly what we wanted from 2023 because now you can see every weekend another team, like Ferrari started good. They had a good start of the season. Whenever they brought the upgrades, they went back to plan F, which is plan fucked. And then you have Mercedes, who nobody ever trusted their development progress, just turning up all of a sudden in Silverstone. I mean, not all of a sudden. They were hinting that they have major upgrades. They were hinting that they have understanding of the car. Now they know what this car can do, what cannot do, and what it needs, what does not need. They were right. McLaren, they started the season, you feel there's a vibe for it, but then in Miami is a whole different beast. Fastest car off the grid, in my opinion. If anything, Max, should get his flowers for actually carrying Red Bull this far up from Miami. Like Miami, okay, he lost. Imola, Lando should have won that, in my opinion. Austria, bought out. Understandable. But again, this is an example of George Russell here when I bring Austria. George did exactly what he had to do. It doesn't matter what's the position. He just drove, kept his head down. When he knew that he's in the lead and he knew that Oscar is behind him and faster, he did not go like, oh my God, this is going to happen. Took the win and took a win in a season we thought Mercedes maybe is not even going to win. And they end up having a back-to-back win since what? Since when did Mercedes even have a back-to-back win? Hold on. Oh, yeah, since Qatar and Saudi.
Qatar, Saudi 21. Yeah.
That's the last time Mercedes had a back-to-back win.
Mental. Don't ask me about McLaren back-to-back wins. I don't have an answer.
I mean, that's it. Hold on. This is your first 1-2 since what? Brazil?
Since Brazil.
2012,
no, that's qualifying. That's qualifying.
Oh yeah.
And we had a 1-2 Monza 21.
Oh yeah, completely.
But then qualifying 1-2 is Brazil. This is how crazy it is. But let me tell you something about Russell and Norris. Yeah, this is the first time in Norris's career that he's got a decent car from Austria onwards, from Austria 23 onwards, right?
True.
Lando Norris is one of the. Yeah. What would? He's had a decent car. He's had last year. He had a decent car.
George hasn't drove the fastest car yet on the grid.
McLaren was not the fastest car you see.
He did. George drove it in Brazil 2022. He came, did his thing, won, and then the next race they told him, okay, we're back to being where we were. But that's
Let's
what
talk about consistency of results, right?
Okay.
I'm talking about bringing home points. Yeah, Lando is a bagman. He's bringing home points, right? Since Austria 2023, he's had 15 podiums. Only 2 of them are P3s.
Okay,
And that's 1 year.
bro have his computer doing
The
homework
guy,
here.
he lives on the podium. He just lives there. And one thing that Max Verstappen used to do in 2019 and 2020, when Lewis Hamilton and Bottas were winning races, he said, "I'm on the podium no matter what. I'm there." The fact that
That's
Lando
true.
Norris is even in these conversations, he's always there. He's always there. I know we put a caveat on, but he doesn't win, whatever. The person that is winning is Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen's been how many races? Won like 60 races in how many years?
62.
62 races in such a short amount of time. It is hard to win races in Formula One if you do not have a dominant car. We on a consistent basis. People behave like it's easy to win a race. Do you know how hard it is to win a race? It is very hard to win a race, especially when you don't have a dominant car, right? Or especially when you're with somebody that has a car that's a little bit better or has the experience and is literally a better driver. And nobody in the world will tell me that Lando Norris is a better driver than Max Verstappen. That's not a take that people say, right? But it's expected of him to beat this guy on a consistent basis. When Max Verstappen is an alien.
Listen, I was about to say that as like the conversation to bring. Listen, even though I'm not a Red Bull or Max fan, by the way, the guy is a nice guy to meet in real life. He's like a kid, basically, 25, like acting his age. But that man behind the mask, under the helmet, is a monster. For his generation, they all have a uphill battle. If you want to go up against Max, even on equal machinery, you have an uphill battle. You're not on a flat terrain. You're on an uphill battle. Does Lando or George have the capacity? And obviously, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, what about Charles Leclerc?" This is just about George and Lando, the battle
It's
of
about
Brits.
Brits. This is British bias.
Yeah, this is Brexit. We're here in the Brexit. Okay. Charles Leclerc proven that he can do it. When he got the car, left Max in the dust, 30 seconds. That's very hard to do, by the way. When Ferrari had the car. When Ferrari
Australia
had the car,
2022.
22, that was mental. I thought Ferrari had it in the bag. I was like, yeah, fucking hell, Ferrari's back. Then Ferrari did its thing. It's like, so Charles was like, I can do it. This is me. This is my pace. This is everything. Give me just the car. Leave the rest to me. I know people likes to pick on Charles. Oh yeah, crash prone, the walls, blah blah blah. Or he pushes over the limit. But sometimes when drivers are frustrated, they could do mistakes like that. Look at Max. Max yesterday. What is that? That is a 2016.
What does that tell you about the impact of the car? We need to have honest conversations about F1 drivers and what cars they're in, right? When Max Verstappen is in a car that's good, he can display what he's about. Yeah. When Charles Leclerc is in a dominant car where it's 100% there, not just a little bit there where he has to drive on the limit, when it's 100% there, a la Australia 2022, you can check out, you can go down the road. I think the top drivers at these teams can check out. They have the ability to do that when they have the car. Whether it be Oscar Piastri, whether it be Sainz, whether it be Leclerc, these guys can check out if they need to check out. Right? Yeah. If they have that car available to them. It's about when it gets tight.
Yeah. It's like, for me, it's the one thing, and I'm sorry I'm holding you long, and thank you by the way for everyone here and for listening for our rant and going about this. But look at Max. I know we're going to keep this at George and Lando, but I'm bringing it back to them. Look at Max after winning his first championship. He said, like, I turned off my phone. I turned off everything. I did not want to. He felt like I aged 50 years because of how mentally hard it was to deal with Lewis. Now, take that same stage. Yep. This is what others have to deal with when it comes to
Yep.
dealing with the Max. And I'm talking about Lando or George. They have to deal with that. Now it's all about also having the right team to do that. And if, in fairness to Red Bull, yeah, we like, make fun and poke at them and everything and blah blah blah. But these lot, ever since they joined F1, and ever since they got Adrian Newey, they're always up there. When was the last time you saw Red Bull in shambles? Until they got the Renault engine.
These are stable organizations. I've been there. They know how to win races. They pick up the pieces. When Red Bull's been winning races consistently since 2009.
This is what I'm saying. And then when they came into 2014, they could do nothing about that engine, the Renault engine in the hybrid era. Mercedes had obviously the better engine. And then as the seasons went forward, they started winning. And even then, they won some races. So this is the thing about, and then you bring a guy like Max Verstappen into this organization, it's game over. Literally game over. I know Adrian Newey now is out. Things looks different, but Max still shows you the difference between him and his teammate. And somebody
100%.
mentioned, and somebody said, is Perez bad or Max is good? No, Max is just that good.
When you evaluate, this is when you evaluate drivers. Sorry to cut you off. When you evaluate drivers, the first point of call is looking at how they compare with their teammate, because these are the only two people in the same car. Look what he does to teammates.
Mop the floor with them, literally.
Look what he does to them.
He does to them what Real Madrid about to do Barcelona this season.
No. Okay. Lamine Yamal, please save us. Please save us. I'm begging.
So that was out of pocket, but I had to bring it.
It's fine. It's fine. I'll accept it. When the season starts, I'll be there. Don't worry. But he is the target. You have to understand, Max Verstappen is the target. This guy has had time. He's been chilling, doing his thing at the front. You have to beat him. He's the target. And the fact of the matter is that right now, who is second in the standings? It's Lando Norris.
Yeah.
Who is closest to him in races? Who has the most P2s? Lando Norris. He's the person that's challenging Max Verstappen. Why are we acting like Max Verstappen is a bum? This is the question. Oh, Lando bottled the race, or Oscar bottled the race, or whatever, or Charles bottled the race. Max is not a bum. And his organizations are not bums. They know what they're doing.
They had a
Red Bull is better than Ferrari. Red Bull is better than McLaren. It takes more than just one driver. You have to have a whole team behind you to do what you need to do. And Max, right now, this is why people are only talking about the constructors is in jeopardy. Because I'll tell you, from now to the end of the season, he's going to win races, even if it ain't the fastest car.
100%.
But he's Max Verstappen.
100%. I think he's going to do a Lewis Hamilton 2018. Where did Bottas finish that season? Was it P6? Fifth or something like that?
Oh, that was a disgrace. That was a disgraceful Bottas season. I can't lie.
Yeah. And Lewis won the championship. And in my opinion, I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, but I think Lewis in 2018 carried Mercedes for both championships.
100%.
If it wasn't for him, Mercedes not winning the constructors. It would be just drivers. But now, so let's try to bring this and try to wrap it around.
Yeah.
If Lando or George were on the same stage against Max, who do you think in a championship battle race, who do you think will align better against Max Verstappen, George or Lando? In their respective teams, by the way. I'm not saying on the same team.
In their respective teams, do you know what I've seen? And I haven't seen Russell do it. I've seen Lando overtake Verstappen and check out in Canada. And that means something.
Okay.
I think that means something. I've seen Miami as well, and he's checked out. That means something. To me, and I don't think it's been displayed because people have not been able to see it, I think Norris is an elite front runner. If he's in clean air, and he's got the car, and the strategy's not messed up, the guy will check out. We saw it low key in Sochi. This guy was in the third fastest car. He checked out. He left Carlos Sainz. He checked out. When it started to rain, Lewis Hamilton came through. We know that story, but he had the ability to check out from back then.
That race was his. That could have been his actually first race win.
So we're talking about consistency of laps and so on and so on. I just don't. I think George Russell has the speed. I think, especially qualifying one lap, I just think he's a bit too spiky. He's not smooth. I feel like there's the consistency within a race. Something happens, whether it be wall-to-wall banging. The only time we've ever seen Lando really getting into incident was Australia. Have you remembered when did he crash out with other people? Going wheel-to-wheel.
Miami last season? Was it Miami last season or 2022?
No, that was Gasly just crashed.
No, the one with Gas that was no. Like I'm thinking, what was the last time I've seen him crash?
And then he's DNF'd because he's crashed into somebody. He doesn't do that. He doesn't get into incidents.
You're actually right.
And that matters when you're going for a championship.
That when I'm thinking about it now, I don't remember a scenario of. I mean, except for what happened in Austria this season. Yeah, that's a whole different. But then again, the blame is not entirely on Max. I know a lot of people, they're like, oh God, you know this thing about fan bases. Yeah, it's like when the driver is at fault, they can't admit it. Like, and we've seen Max fans over and over, and it's not a dig or anything or a hate or anything. I don't do hate stuff. It's like, a lot of people are like, well, yeah, but Lando had a lot of curb. He could have been on the curb. Like, he's holding his line. He doesn't have to move for you.
He's allowed to be on the racetrack,
you exactly. Like, you're the one coming at him. What do you want him to do? It's like when you're driving in the highway and you're in your lane, and then this guy in front of you with half a car in front of you just coming to squeeze you into the wall. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm entitled to do. It's that kind of stuff. But like George, I think
George will do the same, by the way.
George will crash into that guy. I know that, and he will give us the most crikey radio ever hear.
I think. Do you know what's so funny? I think obviously George has got the perception of being aggressive. I think Lando's aggressive as well, but you just don't really see Lando attacking.
Lando, I think it's not aggressive. Lando, he shows aggressiveness, but it's like I don't think he's comfortable with it yet. I'll tell you.
I think he has to drive like that against Max. I think he's realized he needs to do that.
He needs to be that level of George aggressiveness. I'm not saying like George aggressiveness is peak, because masterclass defendant Lewis in the last race. That is the peak of defending, not scrapping, hurting your tires, hurting him, or doing something. Just doing his thing and getting the guy out of shape and making him take awkward racing lines and all that stuff and all that kind of stuff. The only mistake in that whole battle between Lewis and Max was when Lewis locked up in turn 1.
Yeah.
And almost costed him the position. That's what I call masterclass defending. I know, okay, Fernando Alonso 2021 with Lewis in Hungary, that's what I call defending or being aggressive or attacking aggressive. I think Max, I haven't seen that from him, by the way. Personal opinion. This is, you can hang me for it and say whatever you want to say, but I haven't seen Max once like go like aggressively defending, and it doesn't have to be involved in pushing. He is entitled.
You're talking about you haven't seen him defend like how Alonso defended or Hamilton
or
defended.
Lewis, and
because he hasn't been challenged in that manner.
Like what I'm saying, like in his career, he does the rule book thing. I'm ahead in the corner. I can do whatever I want. I can push in the grass, in the wall, because I'm ahead in the corner. I'm entitled to control the racing line as I want. He does.
And even if the other guy's ahead of the corner, Max will go off the track and stay ahead anyway.
Just let break and send both of them outside, and it will be just a racing incident. There's nothing they can do about it. So I think if George and Lando want to survive with Max in the future, I'm not saying they should do that. If you have the faster car, just do the Lewis Hamilton textbook. Keep it clean. Get one perfect good exit. Get him. Check out. Bye. I think both of them haven't have the craft yet to master that. Why? Because George came into Mercedes, very championship marinated team. They can teach him a lot of things. And by the way, he's with Lewis Hamilton as a teammate of all people.
Yeah.
So George Russell, and I've said this in 2022 when he joined Mercedes, and I don't know, a lot of people maybe not remember this. I said George Russell has two career paths. One, he could be the next big guy. Second one, he will be the next Felipe Massa. Hear me out.
Whoa.
Hear me out. Hear me
Okay,
out.
go. Okay.
Okay, hear me out. Felipe Massa came to a championship winning team,
Michael Schumacher, right there.
and he came Michael Schumacher as his teammate, 7-time world champion. You got everything to learn from teammate, who obviously doesn't care if you beat him in a race or two because he doesn't have to prove anything to you. And even if you beat him for the entire season, the number speaks for itself. You haven't won anything to come into the conversation with me when it comes about who's better. George is on the same that career path. You're either going to be something great, or you're just going to be the next Felipe Massa, who thought after a good season, he's that guy for Ferrari. Kimi Raikkonen came not given an F, took a championship. 2008.
Could that be Kimi Antonelli?
Kimi Raikkonen could be the next Kimi Antonelli. So George Russell, I think he has a lot to think about. He had 3 years to deal with Lewis Hamilton. Kimi Antonelli is a talented guy. I'm sure he doesn't see him as big of a threat yet. Until that guy jumps in the car, maybe the conversation could be different. And then he thinks about Max Verstappen, the idea of him coming to Mercedes. I know he said in the media panel he's welcoming to that idea and he's okay with it to happen, and he wants it to come, and he welcomes anybody who thinks he's the big dog to come to Mercedes. Yeah, good talk, but you need to show it. You're against a Lewis Hamilton. I'm not going to say Lewis Hamilton doesn't care. Lewis Hamilton does love the sport. He cares about the sport. But it's just a Lewis Hamilton who doesn't care to show up and like, oh yeah, I can't wait to smack these lot with 30 seconds ahead and just dunk them and all that. There's just Lewis Hamilton who wants to get in a car and pray that the car is good. That's the only Lewis Hamilton.
And then when he's in a position to win, he's a killer.
And when it's to win, look at him in Silverstone. He cooked those youth, literally. Everyone's saying, oh yeah, nobody wins in this modern era at 39, 40 years old. He just proved it to you.
Yeah.
And George, you were in the position to win. But again, with all respect to George, because I cannot blame him in Silverstone, that car just decided to poop out.
He was still slow.
So,
he got
the race pace.
He got overtaken before the pit
the race pace showed up. Yeah, exactly. The race pace showed you cook your tires. So I think the whole conversation about Lando and George, and I'm gonna give you the final point here, Mahad.
Yeah,
I think they both so far are here when it comes to their career at the moment. I'm not talking like about in general. Like at the moment, you both are here.
I even say that experience-wise as well. Same experience.
Yeah,
they're around
you
the same
both
level.
came in the grid at the same time. Yeah, sure. You went to McLaren, you went to Williams, but still, the experience is what matters in this whole bubble.
Yeah,
Lewis is here. He's still that guy.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if he goes to Ferrari and loses every head-to-head with Charles Leclerc, loses every head-to-head qualifying to Charles Leclerc. As long as he's on the grid, you guys not that Brit, which is the whole thing about the show. You're not that Brit. Now, when Lewis decides to be like, guys, thank you very much. I think I've achieved everything. There's nobody that could even dare to put my name down after everything I've achieved. Then comes their turns. I think we probably gonna see the most competitive, aggressive side of those two if I'm praying if both of their cars are on the same level.
Yeah,
what
100%. We got a little taster. We've seen them race. We saw them racing each other in Canada. We saw them racing each other a little bit in Spain. We saw that little tango into Sector 2 and so on. Look, I like seeing these two race. Do you know why? Because when they race each other clean. They leave each other space. And it's always been like that between those two. But they'll go hammer and tong at him because both of each other think they're better than each other. And I think this is good for British motorsport that these two could be the face of the sport when Lewis Hamilton retires.
I mean, if you think about it,
they've got an opportunity to be that.
It is a British bias.
It is British bias.
If their teams cook and be at the top, yeah, definitely they're the face of the sport. Sorry,
Of course.
keep going.
And this is what I'm saying. Along with Charles Leclerc, along with your Max Verstappen's, they've got an opportunity there. It's about who's going to have the composure to take it. Charles Leclerc's got an advantage, but guess what? Because he's been fighting at the front longer than these guys, and especially he's been racing Max Verstappen. He knows Max stuff from karting
Oh, that guy
from
got
way back.
the manual of Max Verstappen.
If any driver on this grid knows a driver, it's Charles Leclerc
Charles knows Max Verstappen
because
very
he's
well.
been racing this guy since a child. These guys, because they're young, they've been in the younger categories. They didn't get to race Max Verstappen. They don't really know. So both George Russell and Lando Norris right now are learning on the job. So hopefully this year they're going to get the opportunity to race this guy more. They're going to get this opportunity to race Max Verstappen more, especially Lando Norris. You have got to take that learnings, and if you do have a good car in 2025, you got to be able to bring it. Me personally, I believe Lando will bring it more, but I 100% believe George Russell will bring it as well.
I mean, on that note, I couldn't have said it better. We will leave it just here, and we're gonna bring out more cooking sessions on this talk show. And as you said it at the start, let McLaren take this season as a learning season, and if 2025 everything is the same, you're still on the same level as Red Bull. It's not a season of learning; it's a season of harvest.
100%.
You have to take everything. You cannot just let them one. If you let Red Bull take one sip of oxygen, Mercedes as well, you're cooked.
100%.
And thank you very much, by the way, Mahal, for being
No
here.
problem,
I
no
really
problem.
enjoyed this. And we're going to do more cooking sessions in the future. And
100%.
thanks for everyone who's been watching. And we'll leave you here. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Peace.